we're trying to help consumer brands learn more about their customers and communicate with them and engage with them. In 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 100 years, consumer brands will exist. Consumer brands will want to know about their customers and they'll want to directly engage and communicate with them. And what's changing is the medium. 30 years ago, they mailed out flyers because they wanted to communicate and like get a message out to their customers and catalogs and that type of thing. And then the internet comes along and they start doing websites, and then social media comes along and they start doing social media posts, and then they start doing social media ads. So what's obvious here is like these consumer brands love their customers. They want to know more about them. They want to meet them where they are and they want to engage with them. And the world is changing. We are going more digital. We're trying to help them achieve what they've always been wanting to do, but with digital assets. So whether this technology changes quickly, which I think it will, I don't think what's not going to change is that these consumer brands want to engage with their customers. They want to learn more about them. And digital assets, because they're on the blockchain and because you can embed all these really great benefits to them, are going to be such a great way for them to do that.
Welcome to Season 2 of From the Blockchain, where we speak to today's most innovative entrepreneurs and thought leaders to impact the true potential of smart contract technology, Web3, and the digital frontier. I'm your host, Ashley Smith from Fame Lady Squad, and I'm thrilled to have you join today's top-tier community of forward-thinking trailblazers. We're here to foster a culture of idea sharing, creativity, and innovation that transcends industries, revolutionizes business, and drives meaningful conversation. If you're ready to forge a path to becoming a thought leader in your industry or organization, think of this podcast as your compass. Don't forget to subscribe, share, and be part of our amazing community. Oh, and please note that this podcast is for informational entertainment purposes only and should not be considered financial or investment advice. Alrighty, everybody, enjoy the show. I am so excited to be here. It's Season 2 From the Blockchain with somebody locally and in person in my neighborhood of Vancouver, Matias Marquez, who is the CEO of Ethos, someone that I had the pleasure of meeting last year at a Web3 event. I'm so pumped to see the community really start to come together in the Vancouver region in terms of technology, AR, VR, Web3. Matias, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me. And the studio is awesome.
I'm super excited to be here. It's very nice. I even put on a blazer today. So this is a little bit of an improvement to my beanies or toques, depending where you come from, and not doing my hair. So we're leveling up in Season 2, and this is a perfect way to get it rolling. So first of all, why don't we talk a little bit about who you are, what Ethos is, and then we'll dive a little deeper into your background.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, Ashley.
Yeah, thanks for coming.
Yeah, excited to be on. What can I tell you about me? So my name is Matias, and I guess I could start with 13 years ago, I started a company, and that company was called Buyatab, and that company was focused on helping consumer brands adopt what was new technology at the time. And that new technology at that time was digital gift cards. So we built a really cool company around helping consumer brands adopt digital gift cards. And by the end, we ended up selling it to the large incumbent, and they're a large public company based in Atlanta. But by the end, we had customers the size of Walmart, Whole Foods, and the Four Seasons, and Tim Hortons, and others, and just really developed a passion around helping consumer brands adopt new technology for the purposes of like them driving customer engagement. And we really kind of I got to see firsthand how these brands have such an impactful reach to their customer base, and they can really delight them. And using new technology to do that's just a really, really fun thing to do. So big passion on that. And fast forward to today, and that part of my life has kind of come and gone. And fast forward to today, what Ethos is it's us helping consumer brands adopt blockchain technology and specifically digital assets / NFTs for the purposes of customer engagement and for them to delight their customers. And it's emerging, it's burgeoning technology. There's a lot of education that's needed, but there's a real, and I'm sure you're a believer, but there's a lot of great things about this technology that can translate to really great experiences for customers. And it just requires brands to get there. And we're having a lot of fun getting them there.
Well, first of all, I want to say kudos to you for developing this and even for the work you had done previously. I understand that you're like a multiple award winner, 30 under 30, 40 under 40, multiple times Entrepreneur of the Year. And so you've been recognized for the work you're doing. And I would actually say that when I first heard the company you had previously built, how early it really was for that type of technology and business development side of things, I'm just surprised. That feels like Facebook had just come out, basically, and folks were only newly becoming prepared to even use some of this technology.
It's funny, like when I started my last company, we were trying to convince consumer brands that they should sell their gift cards digitally. And that today sounds like an obvious, like straightforward thing. And you go, of course, they're going to sell their gift cards digitally. But the reality is they thought it was like, people thought that was crazy. Like I had friends tell me like, that's never going to work. No one's going to do this. And, fast forward, we turned out to prove everybody, to people, we proved that we were correct and that, yes, this was a technology that could be impactful and could be used. So we went through that. And now, as you know, where we are today, there's a lot of skeptics around blockchain and NFTs and digital assets and all that kind of stuff. But it reminds me of that time. It almost feels like back then it was tougher to convince people that digital gift cards were going to be a thing than convincing people today that digital assets and NFTs can be a thing for customer engagement. So yeah, in many ways, I've been through it before, and that experience has really helped me, at least during this time, which it's just par for the course, I think.
Yeah, and so I have to wonder. One of the questions that I get and almost objections that I get when I talk to people about my excitement around Web3 is, why is blockchain needed to execute on this idea? Like, why do you need a decentralized ledger to participate in this way? So without necessarily getting into the nitty-gritty of the tech, why do you feel that this sort of technology will help enable some of your objectives?
It's a really good question. And it's a really important question. And I think if we don't answer it well, we're not going to get this technology advanced and adopted, right? So I'll give you a quick answer. So when the internet first came out, the big thing there was that you could have a server and someone else could have a server, and the servers could talk to each other. Yeah. And that was like the foundation of the internet, and that created all these wonderful use cases. With blockchain, why it's so impactful is because it's a shared ledger. It's a shared database that you can look at, I can look at, you can write to, I can write to, and I can verify what you're writing to. And that sounds very simple, and it is, right? But the fact that you can have a database or a ledger that can be shared amongst anybody and is visible to anybody is that transformational point, like servers being able to communicate with each other. So, I'm not saying, closed databases won't exist anymore, but the idea of one big shared one is a great addition to the digital kind of ecosystem we're all used to.
So is there an example that you can provide, given that context, that might speak to our audience, especially if this is the first time they've really thought about this concept?
Yeah, I think that if you own a designer handbag, or you own an expensive pair of shoes, or you own a car, or you own something that you really are passionate about, you'd like to know that that's authentic, right? And being able to look into it, like being able to point to something that's publicly available and people trust and say, this is registered there. Like when you buy a house here in Vancouver, it gets registered at the land title office. That's important, right? Products and physical assets are becoming more and more important to everybody, and being able to point to a registration somewhere, I think that's important on its own. I think the ability to then verify that is important. I think the ability to transfer it and for it to change, because if you remove blockchain from that, then you're just having these private databases that you can't even show and point to, limiting the use cases. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It does. So let's bring it to ethos. Maybe give us some examples of the type of work that you're doing with clients.
Yeah. So at Ethos, we're having a lot of fun educating consumer brands and helping them drive engagement with their customers using digital assets. So what a digital asset is, it's an NFT. It's a digital, it's a digital representation of IP that they have. We register on the blockchain. That's what makes it an NFT. And then we add benefits to it, right? So what's really cool is that you could be a brand issuing a digital asset. So a really great digital representation of some IP you have, which a lot of brands have, like tremendous banks of IP.
Yeah.
And they haven't really used it before. So imagine like if Coca-Cola used, like they've done this with like Coke bottles, and like they just have such, like the Santa Claus, they have all this great IP. So a brand can take their IP, digitally represented in a very unique, collectible way. So that's really great. And they can add really great benefits to it. And the combination of those two things can really delight customers. But just to double click on the benefits can be wide ranging. And we're really innovating here to make sure that these brands can add tons of great benefits. But some example of benefits can include things like free shipping on your next purchase. Can be like a promo code to get a discount on a product. But more importantly, they can include things like a video of the product being made. It can include things of like an interview from like the designer of who made that product. You can also include things like, and we call this gated commerce, where because you're holding that digital asset, you can get access to purchase something from the brand that you otherwise weren't able to purchase. So imagine being able to buy a pair of shoes or sunglasses in a colorway that's only available to a select number of people. And those those latter options are really interesting because they're non-monetary. So if you're a brand and you're using your existing IP, you're offering content, you're offering access to purchase things. These things are not costing you like money to augment the experience you're giving your customer, but the customers perceive values high on these things. So what we're doing, and which we're really excited about, is we're giving brands a vehicle to like excite their customers in a digital way, and then offer really great benefits that can be monetary and non-monetary. But it's the non-monetary ones that I think are the real game changer. Because, if you're a brand, you don't really want to discount, you don't really want to give away, you want to just make the experience better. And that's what these digital assets can do.
Yeah. Since it's top of mind, I will mention, listeners of the show know that I'm a holder of VFriends and a fan of Gary Vaynerchuk. But today they're launching access to this Reebok shoe partnership thing that they're doing with their brand. And only holders get early access. And they get a special gift in this case. But you go through a token gated process and you get that. And you're spending the same amount of money as anyone else, but you're getting in there early and you're going to get your size. The availability is going to be there. And so, I obviously haven't gone through the process just yet, haven't seen the deliverable, but I think it's a really neat concept. And I do feel a little VIP right now.
Well, and you're feeling VIP and you're buying something at full price.
Yes.
And you're feeling rewarded. And I think that that's such a great way. If you're a consumer brand today and you want to drive engagement and you want to offer your customers something that's going to delight them, this is a way better way of doing it than to here's $50 off the shoe.
Yeah.
Right. And that's not what you want. You want the feeling you're getting now and you're happy to pay full price for it.
I mean, it discounts nice sometimes.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
And to be fair, there are some select people who will get discounts. I'm just not one of the lucky ones.
There you go.
But I would love to know your experience with ethos as you're talking to some of these potential clients, like brand clients. Are they coming to you? Are you going to them? Are they wanting to learn more? Like, what does the conversation look like between you and them right now in 2023, especially amidst, all of the craziness that has come with crypto and NFTs over the last couple of years?
Yeah, there's a lot there. So I would say our discussions with consumer brands kind of run the spectrum.
Yeah.
So you have brands that are you have people that work at these consumer brands, some that are excited about this technology and are reaching out to us, and we're having really great conversations with them. And that would be on one side of the spectrum. On the other side of the spectrum, you have people who have no idea what this technology is, have seen really bad headlines and want to stay far away from it. Right. So obviously on the former side, it's like, hey, come talk to us. Let's pilot something. Let's work with you. On the latter side of the spectrum, it's like, hey, we just need to help educate you, because the reality is that yes, there's been bad actors. Yes, there's been some bad headlines, but that's more on the speculative side. That's more on the crypto token side. What we're trying to talk about here is driving great customer engagement. And the technology is really not that important. It's just kind of it's similar to yes, it's also on AWS. Yes, we also use this as an email server. Yes, and yes, blockchain's a part of it. But it has been, it's been unfortunate actually, because I know a lot of people that are building really great applications and doing really great work in this space. And the craziness of last year and the bad actors have made it unnecessarily more difficult for the good actors. And it would have been better actually if this technology was less known about and those bad actors just didn't exist.
And I think there is an ease of use issue that we're slowly starting to see being overcome. But AI, I mean, I'm just reiterating the same thing that everyone else is saying, but AI hit the mainstream big time over the last year. And part of it was because consumers themselves could get their hands on it and see what they could do with it and solve problems for themselves in their work, perhaps. And so in the Web3 world, it feels like there's still barriers, or you need folks to help facilitate the use of the technology. And so it does seem like we're going to need to get to that point where you're no longer needing to explain all of the things, the crypto wallets. I've now been dabbling, quote unquote, in Web3 since early 2021. And I talk more about my interest being in blockchain technology, smart contracts, Web3. And people still say, oh, you're doing that Bitcoin thing.
Yeah.
And so we do need to get past that. But I'd love to know your thoughts on making it easier just for mass adoption and for the everyday user.
Yeah, I mean, like our mission is to make this technology simpler, easier, more humanize it, and help consumer brands drive engagement with their customers.
Yeah,
like that's literally our mission, is to like make it easy and to help these consumer brands drive engagement. So the making it easy part's a really important piece of it, and I actually worry about this industry a little bit, that it's currently like really being built by people that love this technology and are very good users of it. And there needs to be a paradigm shift. Like we're very focused on that paradigm shift. Like, we think that crypto wallets are an advanced setting, right?
Yeah.
Like for someone to receive a digital asset, type in your email and engage with the digital asset, get its benefits. And if you are one of the 1% or 0.1% that knows what a crypto wallet is and has one, sure, go into the advanced settings and connect it, and you can take true ownership of that digital asset. But we have to make it super, super easy. And a lot of the innovation that we're doing is around making it super easy for customers and for users. Because if we don't make this technology easier for people, it's never going to get widely adopted. There's a book called what's it called? It's called Crossing the Chasm. Have you read it?
No, but I want to.
It's great. It's a tech book, and it's about adoption. Like you should totally read it. So I think the guy's name's Jeffrey Moore that wrote it. Anyways, he talks about this chasm. So on the left side, so you know the traditional adoption curve, where like you have the early adopters and the innovators on the left, and then you have like the late majority on the right.
Yeah.
And he's got like a gap, and it's near the beginning.
Yeah.
And it's around like the 15 or the 12 to 15% mark. And what he's saying is that to get the left side of the chasm on board is not that difficult, because they'll try new things, they'll download things, they'll save, crazy seed phrases, they'll do things that other people won't do. And then there's this like gap, and then there's the right side. And that right side are people like my mom, there's people like my aunt, people like my wife, who are like just never going to do that stuff, right? Like if it doesn't make it easier for their life, it doesn't give them a benefit, and it's not extremely simple, they're not going to, that right side's not going to happen. So what the book talks about is like, how do you cross the chasm? How do you start off with people in an industry that will try things, will do the work to like try the product, versus everybody else? And I think in this industry, the chasm is actually like a really important piece, because it doesn't matter like how much people talk about technology and how much people love the technology. If it isn't super, super simple for people who are really busy, we're not going to get mass adoption. So that's what we're focused on. We're focused on making it really, really easy. A couple examples include like when the brands we work with issue an NFT or a digital asset, literally the consumer just types in their email. Type in their email, boom, now they have access to it.
Yeah.
If they want to store it somewhere, they can store it in their crypto wallet. But that's not even what these brands are excited about. We've done an integration to Apple Wallet where the user can just click store in their Apple Wallet and display it there. So I could talk about making this technology easier and more accessible all day long, because I actually think it's a huge part of it.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to see these sorts of integrations with Apple Pay. I know MetaMask had just announced something related to that. I'm not fluent in the news updates, so I won't speak to it, but I'll maybe put a link in the show notes. But yeah, I mean, just to speak to this, I haven't bought a lot in way of crypto or NFTs over the last little while, although maybe now would have been the time to do it. But I did purchase an NFT yesterday from an artist named Amber Vittoria, who's done a lot in this space, and I just admire her so much. She's actually been on the show. But I saw that she was collaborating with this new platform, and I gave them all my info. I think a lot of the crypto bros are afraid of that part, giving away their email or phone number or whatever. I'm not. I'm one of these other people. I'm in this other group. But I basically I set myself up. I got a text message and it said, choose which piece of art you like. And the one I liked was associated with a sunshine emoji. So all I did was text back a sunshine emoji, and it automatically charged my credit card $10. And that was it. And it's not speculative. I just want to support the artist. And there it was in the wallet that they had created for me, not associated with my crypto wallet, although I could put it there if I like to. And it was really fun. It was a fun experience. I was excited to show my support. So these are the types of innovations, I guess, that are happening. And I'm excited to see folks like you building on it. I would love to know, like, are there any specific case studies, either through clients you've worked with or that you've seen in the public realm that have gotten you very excited about the future and what can be done?
Yeah. So a couple of things. Let me just comment on your previous point. So
Yeah,
that really easy process, wasn't it nice?
it was nice.
Right?
It was nice.
Yeah.
I was actually excited to use my credit card too, to be honest.
Right. And you're somebody who like can appreciate the whole like decentralization, the hey, like I don't want people to like I want some anonymity. I want me too. Like I like those things. But when you compare it to that process, it's nice though, right?
Yeah, and I'm just buying it. Like, again, this is taking things away from that speculative day trading environment. And it doesn't mean that that won't exist in this middle realm as well somehow, but there's just more important ways that we can use this technology.
And I think that you're demonstrating something that we really believe in. And there was actually a PwC report that was issued a couple like weeks ago, or maybe a couple months ago now. And they had a really interesting stat in there. So it was something like 85 or 82% of people are willing to give up some personal information in exchange for convenience, right? And I think that's true for like all of us, right? Like if you can make my life easier, I'm happy for you to know like a little bit about me. And if that's my billing information, sure, right? And I think that's, it's those types of like perspectives that we have to really hold in mind to take this technology past that chasm, or else this is only going to be for the people that really believe and love the technology, which that cohort of people are awesome. But it's like this entire industry gets better if more people adopt it more broadly. So that's just one point I wanted to make. And I think that's a really, if you are willing to trade information, knowing that you know how to buy different crypto tokens, you have your own crypto wallets. And if even you like that experience better, then what does that tell you, right?
Yeah, there's room for it.
Yeah. And then you talked about kind of like examples that we've seen. So we've been fortunate that we've been in this space for a little bit now, and we've been working with great brands, and we've got to like experience stuff kind of firsthand. You know, we're working with this cool brand, and they came to us and they said, hey, we want to like issue these digital assets at an event we're hosting, right? And at that event, I think their original plan was to have like people helping set up crypto wallets, right? And then they met us and they liked what we were doing better because imagine being at an event, like imagine actually being at an event and then having a drink in your hand and then be like, hey, cool, there's going to be like this like NFT that I get. But what do I have to do? I got to go over here. I got to like get this crypto wallet. I got to like write down the seed phrase. I got to like imagine holding a drink, trying to hold a conversation. Right. And then we came along and said,
and just hoping you have the cell reception or Wi-Fi or signal to even do it.
Yeah. But even that, like, that's not the issue. Like the issue is like, I'm going to go stand over here and I'm going to take this like crazy arduous process to like set up a crypto wallet. And then what am I going to do? Whereas we came along and said, hey, what if you just put a QR code and they covered they used their camera to scan it, which everyone can do now. And then they just typed in their email address. Right. And at that time we had like, I think there was like 5 steps you had to do to claim it. And their feedback to us was, hey, this was awesome. And they loved it, but can you make it easier? So we've actually moved now to like a 1-step claim process. So it's funny, like, although we've been tilted to like make this technology really easy, the real examples we've been working with have actually pushed us even more in that direction. So I get really excited because when we hear from consumer brands and we hear from customers what they want, that's way more important than what we want. And even, I thought the process before our change there was easy, and we heard it needs to be even easier. And I kind of felt like saying to them, well, your previous process was going to be even more arduous, but that's not the point. The point is I hear you, like, we think it's easy and you're telling us it needs to be even easier. So I think it's obvious, like, that's the direction this technology has to go. And whenever I see other companies pushing in that direction, I get really excited because I know that's the path that I think we all have to be on.
Yeah. I keep thinking about the world of communication, social media, community building, and more in the quote unquote traditional sense, not so much the like NFT community building that we saw over the last couple of years, but this move towards brands being able to have direct contact or connection with their fans and their consumers, and how in many ways social media, of course, has enabled a two-way conversation. But at the same time, I think there's a lot of people and organizations who feel a little bit restricted is not the right word, but if that social media platform goes down or user base changes, then you've built something up that you can't necessarily carry forward and build on into the future. And so I don't want to talk smack about X or Twitter, but that's an example where I think there's a lot of questions right now around, well, will Twitter matter in 5 years? And what if you've built a lot of your consumer conversation there? And so I do believe that there's something here with the Web3 tech that's going to allow, and I'm sure some of the versions of this we haven't seen yet, but allow companies and brands to have more control over their connection with their community. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, lots. I mean, I think this kind of scores how important blockchain is, because the blockchain is a database that is not controlled by one entity. So if one group is not kind of like playing well, well, you now there's actually like a theoretical way to like not lose what you've done, right? So if X or Instagram or whoever was built on a blockchain, the real benefit would be that, you know, if they weren't playing nice, you'd have a better chance of like taking your audience, taking your groups with you, and not losing the work that you've done. But there's a bigger point there. Like, I think a shared database makes a lot of sense for reasons like that. And I think that the world's efficient. I think that as we all become more digital and even more dependent on digital things, I think we will veer to the better option. And the better option is obviously a more shared database that isn't controlled by one entity versus what we're used to. And I think that's an example. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. It does. And I think the social media platforms, whether it's the ones we know today or ones that are being developed today or tomorrow, I think we're going to start seeing some of this technology being used. So I'm excited to see whatever that looks like. But speaking of the future, I'd love to know, like, obviously you don't have a crystal ball, but do you have any thoughts on how you expect to see, for example, even your business ethos evolving over the next 5 years? 5 years feels like a long ways away when we're talking about technology like this.
Yeah. And we see like, it's like a step function, right? You see fast innovation, and then kind of things seem like they slow down for a bit, and then you see fast innovation again. So who knows where we'll be in 5 years? But, you know, I'm reminded of like, you know, for our business, right? I think there's a great Jeff Bezos interview, by the way, where he gets asked a question, and they asked him, I'm going to butcher this, I think, but they ask him this question. It's like he's like on stage, and they go, "Hey Jeff, like, what's the future going to be like in the future? You seem to like, you know, have your pulse on this stuff. What's going to be different in 10 years, whatever?" And he ends up answering the question, but he first says, I think what he said was, I think what's more important is actually not answering the question of like what's going to change. It's what's going to stay the same, right? And in their case, he said, it's easier to build a business around things that aren't going to change than things that are going to change. And for their business at Amazon, he said, the things that aren't going to change that they can build a business around is like consumers want low prices and consumers want things quickly. And he ends up like famously saying, you know, he can't imagine a world where 10 years from then, someone's going to call him and say, "Hey, Jeff, we love Amazon, but the prices were too low," right? Or, "Hey, love Amazon, but the package showed up too quickly." So for that was the example for Jeff Bezos and Amazon. For us, I think that it's actually kind of like there's a similarity there in the sense that like we're trying to help consumer brands learn more about their customers and communicate with them and engage with them. And I don't think that changes. I don't think, you know, in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 100 years, consumer brands will exist. Consumer brands will want to know about their customers, and they'll want to directly engage and communicate with them. And what's changing is the medium, right? Like, you know, 30 years ago, they mailed out flyers because they wanted to communicate and like get a message out to their customers and catalogs and that type of thing. And then the internet comes along and they start doing websites, and then social media comes along and they start doing, you know, social media posts, and then they start doing social media ads. So what's obvious here is like these consumer brands love their customers. They want to know more about them. They want to meet them where they are, and they want to engage with them. And the world is changing. We are going more digital, and we're trying to help them achieve what they've always been wanting to do, but with digital assets. So whether this technology changes quickly, which I think it will, I don't think what's not going to change is that these consumer brands want to engage with their customers. They want to learn more about them. And digital assets, because they're on the blockchain and because you can embed all these really great benefits to them, are going to be such a great way for them to do that.
So do you have any resources that you like to look to when you're trying to help inform or educate, whether it's your customers or your friends like, or where do you get your resources from? So that way you're staying on top of, where are things going? What are the opportunities looking like? I think it's hard. Like there's so much happening. AI obviously is a big part of this now too. And if there's anything on AI you care to speak to, if it touches your business at all, happy to hear about that as well.
Yeah. So what resources? So I'll answer the question in like two different ways. One, there's a ton of great resources. There's like your podcast. We have a podcast. We have content that we put out. There's like groups you can join. There's like, if you want to learn about this technology, there's like vast like resources for you to learn. And we can put some in the show notes and that type of thing. But I actually think what's more impactful is we need to get this technology in the hands of people and delight them. And you take the biggest skeptic of this technology. It doesn't matter what they read. It doesn't matter, you're never going to like guide them to like listen to to your podcast or listen to Gary Vee or whatever, because they're a hardcore skeptic. But when that skeptic receives something that they don't even realize is on the blockchain and just makes their life better, that's how you flip them, right? So imagine, the biggest skeptic receiving a digital asset from their favorite brand that gives them the access to purchase a product and not having to wait in line and be able to get like a discount or be able to like learn more about the product. That skeptic's going to receive that digital asset, really enjoy it, and then later be like, wait a minute, was that thing I didn't like? So what we have to do is like, yes, provide tons of resources, and we do that, and you're doing that, and there's lots of great resources out there. But I think more importantly, what we have to do is get this technology in the hands of people who are not in love with this technology and show them how great it can be. And I think if we can do that, that's going to be more impactful than any type of kind of resource or like document we can give them.
Okay, so I have a maybe slightly more difficult question around risk. And the reason I bring it up is because I've been chatting with some folks in my network who, they're executives at organizations or like senior level executives or board members thinking about the strategic direction of an organization. And I think what I'm hearing feedback related to the show even is like, okay, it's great to hear like, these are the opportunities, these are the possibilities, but what risk, if someone's wanting to start implementing this type of technology to enhance their either client or customer or membership engagement or whatever it is, are there things they should be thinking about actively to make sure that they've created safe guardrails as they're entering the new tech? Because I think a lot of the problems people have is they don't have folks on their team who understand the tech. So what would you recommend to those people?
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot there. I'd say, my background and my history was like we were helping brands adopt like effectively what was a financial instrument, right? And there was like a lot of compliance and a lot of regulation and a lot of like fraud related risks and all that kind of stuff. So I mean, like especially large consumer brands, like they're quite good. Like they have InfoSec departments and they have like approved vendors and they have processes that vendors have to go through. So I would say like if you're somebody if you're a large consumer brand, and these consumer brands do a good job of this, but they should be focused on like, who is the partner that's going to help me do this? And are they at a level like my other vendors, right? I think that's important because, we just signed up a client actually that was with another provider that like went out of business, right? So what you want is you want someone you can trust and an entity that's going to be around, right? So, but like I said, consumer brands and this is not I think it's specific to this industry. You make sure you're working with a vendor that you trust and is going to be around and like has the right kind of values and lines with yours. Outside of that, I mean, like there's a lot of risk mitigation strategies that they should play into. But it kind of like summarized, like start small, start with the idea of how can we do this in a way that's going to delight customers, and I think if you do it that way, the other pieces kind of fall into place. Like, don't do this because of the technology. Do it because what the technology can do. And if you start small and you start with a group of your customers, or you start with a certain segment, and you're just offering rewards and you're delighting them, it's pretty low risk, right? Like actually, if your favorite consumer brand gave you a digital asset for free and it came with some benefits, like how much risk is that consumer brand really taking?
Yeah.
Right.
I think and this is where it gets a little stickier, is like if they start diving more into the crypto wallet stuff and self-custody stuff, which the company may very well be quite removed from, then they're just like playing around in a space that they need as we all have to learn about. And so I wonder how much is it necessary for companies and brands who are playing in this space in the way that you're suggesting, in an appropriate ease-in kind of way? Do they need to educate their customers or no?
I mean, like, it's funny. It's a funny question, right? And I think it's a question that you only really get in this industry. Like, in any other industry, would you ask, like, should we be educating our customers about what Amazon Web Services are?
Right.
It's like, of course not.
Or their data protection.
Yeah. I mean, like, there are important guardrails that need to be in place. Like, if you're in Europe, you need to follow the GDPR, right? And if you're in California, the CCPA is important in terms of, data privacy. If you're taking credit cards, you want, to make sure that wherever those credit cards are being taken, that it's like PCI compliant and these types of things. But those things are relevant in all your other aspects of your online kind of like world for consumer brands today too. So I would say that if a consumer brand has really great intentions, like, hey, I want to delight customers, I want to give them benefits, I want to help them like engage with us, which is what they're thinking. Like, consumer brands really care about their customers. And then they also apply the same degree of like scrutiny on the vendors in that are helping them here as they do in other areas. They're going to be fine, right? It's just when they look at this as some like innovative new technology and they don't consider this vendor like the other ones. But if they just treat them like their other vendors, I mean, like think of like HR data, think of like, their financial data, like they are scrutinizing their vendors and there's lots of risk there too. And in this space, as long as they have to follow the same processes, which is what they do, they're going to be okay.
Any thoughts on, not necessarily about risk, but any thoughts on small businesses, as you mentioned, who may not have as large of teams, who want to dabble, who think, you know what, I could see making use of this. I just don't know how to go about it. What should they be thinking about?
Yeah. I mean, we see this, and Gary Vee talks a lot about this, when an emerging new kind of like technology or channel emerges, there's like an arbitrage, right? Like if you get in early, you can get disproportionate number of eyeballs, you can get disproportionate attention. So if you're an earlier company, I think it's really smart to jump on that now, because you can make headlines, you can excite customers, you can benefit from what I call like a halo effect, where if everyone's going to receive a digital asset at some point. Like we know this is where it's going. But if the first digital asset somebody gets is because of brand X, then brand X is going to benefit from like bringing that innovation to that customer. So you get to like kind of like a tech halo, associated with you. So if you're like, I don't know, if you make hats and you're like growing and everything else, and you do a digital asset that excites your customers, and that customer's first digital assets from you, they're not going to forget that. Right. So, and then you might get some media. You also get like the excitement of them receiving it. So I would say if you're an early stage company, work with vendors that seem credible, that you would trust, that are going to be around and are looking at it the same way you're looking at it. But I would move sooner, because the larger brands are already moving, and it's going to be like, TikTok's probably a good example, right? If you were on TikTok as a consumer brand 5 years ago, you had kind of an edge. And now everyone's there, right? So I would say if you're an earlier stage, kind of like more emerging brand, I would move sooner. I don't know if you agree with that or not.
No, I do. And I think the big takeaway for me over the last while, but in this conversation as well, is treating it as a value add process versus something that anyone could see as being speculative. Like, I think that so many folks have seen brands like put things out where people are buying these tokens, and then they're just speculating on what the value might be and what the brand might eventually do. And I think some have actually done a good job, and I give some of them credit for, blazing trails and giving things a try. But I think when you treat it more as something that's native to your ethos, your company, what you're doing, and how you can just, provide value adds that you might be doing in other ways already. It's really, really interesting to me. So I'm excited to see more of this taking place. I'm excited to see examples. I don't know if there's ways for other brands to somehow watch what brands are doing. I mean, we all know about Starbucks. I feel like everyone knows about Starbucks and their Odyssey program, at least if they're paying attention to the space. But otherwise, I'm not sure the layperson knows how to look at sort of case studies of this.
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously, like I could plug our website and,
Yes.
ethosnft.com, and like we have examples and like content that we put out. But I do want to loop back to Starbucks for just a second. Like, I actually think what Starbucks is doing is really great for the space, because they're taking the approach of like delighting, exciting customers and giving them benefits. And it's an addition to their loyalty program that's really based around like non-monetary benefits on top of the stars, right? And the really interesting thing that Starbucks is doing is that they don't even use the terminology blockchain or NFTs or anything like that.
Only we know, and we talk about it all the time.
Exactly. So that's an example of like that really good use case where individuals will start getting exposed to that to that program, and they'll like it. And then when they like it and they realize that it's connected to the blockchain or on Polygon or whatever, they'll have a different view of what a digital asset can be. So kudos to Starbucks. I think they're doing a great job with that, and Nike's doing a good job that way too with their Swoosh program. You asked like if you're a consumer brand, where can you like kind of like regularly be updated on this? We have a little community that we've created called Huddle, and we send out a weekly newsletter every Tuesday, and we highlight every every notable consumer brand that's doing an activation, and we put it in the weekly newsletter. So there are resources out there to keep track. But I will say this, that the most exciting consumer brands are all like in this space, trying things, learning about it, maybe like piloting behind the scenes. But it is an impactful technology that I really don't think is going away.
I sort of mentioned AI earlier, and then we breezed through it. Is there anything? Do you see an intersection with AI with the type of work that you're doing, or no?
Yeah, I think there's so much to talk about there. So I think AI's in a similar position that Web3 was like last year and the year before. Lots of hype around AI. By the way, I love where AI like helps people. And like my mom called me the other day and she was like, I think she wasn't crying, but she said she was crying. And she's like, she goes, I found this ChatGPT thing. And she goes, it's changed my life. She goes, I've struggled so much with emails. And now I can just, because for her work, she has to send emails and she's a nurse. So she goes, now I just tell ChatGPT what I want to write, and it writes this beautiful email for me. And I said, Mom, I don't know who's happier, you or me, because I might be crying, because if you weren't asking ChatGPT to do it, you'd be asking me to do it, right? So my point is, like, I think there's a lot of great stuff about AI. I think it can really help and make people more productive. I also think that it may be overhyped right now. And what's funny, I think, is that a lot of the overhyped people that were in Web3 have literally moved over to AI. So I think in the AI kind of like realm, there's a lot of good technology and a lot of great use cases like Web3. I think that it's got layered on top of it right now, a group of a bunch of people that are probably there just because it's exciting.
Frothiness.
Little frothiness. But the benefits of the folks in our industry is that they moved. They went to the next hot thing, which is AI. And what's left are people like you and me and others that are really focused on making the best of this technology. And I actually think that's a really good thing. So I think in summary, I think AI is real. I think there's lots of great benefits. It's probably overhyped, and it's probably overhyped by the same people that were previously overhyping Web3.
Right. Gotcha. That's a good point. I haven't heard anyone put it that way. So I'm going to take note of that. Before we end, and before I reiterate how people can find you and mention your newsletter, for example, is there anything we haven't talked about today that you'd love to share with the audience?
No, I mean, there's lots we haven't talked about. I do think that like the internet, when the internet first started, like what was popular? Like dark chats and like blogs and like and those things, like there's some good things and some really awesome things, and those things still exist. I think with Web3 and blockchain, I think we're seeing something similar where don't look at this technology as the use case, the one use case you're familiar with. So like if you've heard of Bitcoin and you think that's blockchain, that's one use case. And I don't think it goes away, but I think there's going to be additional use cases that get really exciting. And I think that's a very similar kind of analogy to like what the internet was. So like I think that there's going to be tons of great examples of like art. Like I think art's going to be fantastic. I think that brands are going to be in a great place to like use these digital assets to like drive really great experience for their customers. I think that like, real estate, which you're very, familiar with. I think blockchain's going to play a big role there. And I think the individual kind of like lanes are actually more disconnected than people think. And the idea of it all just being like tied to Bitcoin is something that we really have to like get people to understand that it's just not the case.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that. And I'm going to probably soundbite that, send it to like, my naysayers.
Yeah.
I was going to say my parents, but my parents have actually been awesome and they're avid listeners and root me on with all this stuff. So they're not technologists, but they like seeing what their daughter's doing. So that's great. Cool. So if people are interested in learning more about you and or ethos, what should they be checking out? And I'll make sure to link it in the show notes.
Yeah. Lots there. So me, LinkedIn, Twitter, and when it comes to the company Ethos, our website, ethosnft.com, our LinkedIn, our Twitter, we're super active. We're always putting content out. And then we also have this really cool community that we've built for brand leaders. And it really, what comes out of that is a great newsletter every Tuesday. And that's called Huddle. It's huddl3.org. So sign up for Huddle and get that newsletter because it's just what brands are doing every Tuesday.
Cool. Well, I really appreciate your time. It's flown by. I'm very happy that we had the opportunity to meet here in person. I hope maybe even in, some point down the line, we can reconnect, see where things are going. But it's wonderful. It's wonderful to be here in Vancouver with you.
Thanks for having me.
Matias. Thank you so much for tuning in to this week's episode of From the Blockchain. I really hope you enjoyed the show. If you have any ideas about future episodes, including themes or potential guests, please check for a link in the show notes. Happy to hear from you. Also, if you're interested in being a potential sponsor for From the Blockchain, I'd love to hear from you as well. Check for a special link just for you in the show notes. All right, everybody. Again, thanks for being here. Love the show. Love being with you. Please remember to subscribe, review, and share with your friends. Until next week, have a great one.